Tony, how exactly did you get into coaching to begin with?
Yeah, Jonathan, I think when I was, 16, 17, 18 years old, the parent that was coaching us was kind of moving through the system at the same time we were. And I also played a lot of competitive ice hockey growing up. And what I noticed was that ice hockey coaches definitely had philosophies and they had education behind them and they had some training in other areas. And I didn't think that the curling coaches that I was working with as an athlete at that time actually had sufficient skills to progress as a professional coach. And that's not to demean them. What they gave me was a huge development opportunity and going, I kind of wanted to see, could you take curling to a professional level? So it was really the influences of my coaches as a junior curler. And then obviously growing up in Saskatchewan and playing against a lot of really top teams, I recognized pretty early that if I didn't make it as an athlete, I still wanted to stay involved in the game. And being involved as a coach is as close as you're going to get to the ice. So why not see how far I could go with that?
I guess I assume you initially began kind of in a volunteer role. So was it kind of volunteering at your local rink or?
Yeah, so the first thing that happened was I started giving back to the junior program that I actually came out of. Elmer Schmidt was a legend in Regina at the Caledonian Curling Club, and he was always looking to have his athletes give back to the system. So he had approached me about starting to take my levels, and in Canada we're really big on level one, two, three, four, and five. And at that time, it was the three areas. There was theory, there was practical, and there was technical. So he really pushed me early to kind of get into that, and I started to really develop a passion for it. And you work from a volunteer base to then doing schools groups and then starting to do corporate functions. And one thing kind of snowballed into another. I got to know some of the kids that I was coaching at that level. And there was a junior curling opportunity that came up with a team by the name of Rob Marquardt, real good junior in Regina at the time. And he had Bruce Sennison curling with him, who I had a little bit of experience with. And they'd asked me if I wanted to be a team coach. So that kind of morphed into the where I am today. That first experience of being a team coach in like 1990 in Saskatchewan, and getting out there and kind of going week in week out with the guys, and I got to go to a provincial championship with them. And that kind of really stoked the fire, and I thought that this is something I wanted to do for as long as I could do it.
So what do you think the role of a curling coach is?
Yeah, so again, when I was a young coach, I thought a coaching philosophy had to be a big, long, wordy thing because it made you sound really smart and you had a whole bunch of ideas. And over the years, I've just kept paring it down, paring it down, paring it down. So right now, my coaching philosophy is I influence behaviors that affect performance. That's all I can do as a coach. So how do you influence behaviors to affect performance? You create relationships. Some of those are touchy-feely relationships. Some of those are hard-nosed relationships. Some of those are inquisitive. Some of those are demanding, some of those are more pointed. But the ultimate thing is how do you get an athlete to change a behavior that you believe needs to be changed? Because if they don't believe it, they're probably not going to want to change it. So, again, it's about, one of my mentor coaches always said they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I'm not a touchy-feely coach by any stretch of the imagination. A lot of athletes I've coached might say I'm a little standoffish, I'm a little aloof, I'm not really there with them. But those I've been in battle with, I think they would say I do have a caring side from an athlete's point of view, because if I don't, then they're not going to buy into kind of what I'm trying to get them to do. But they've got to want to make that change. I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for them, because if they don't perform, then I don't perform. So it's definitely a two-way street. It's not all about one or the other. But again, influencing behaviors and affecting performance for me, that's literally all we can do as a coach, and creating relationships is how we do that.
If someone listening to this wants to get into high performance coaching or professional coaching, like what advice would you have for them to kind of stake out that kind of a career path?
Do it because you love it. Same as I would tell an athlete who wants to get involved in sport. Don't go into it looking like you're going to make $1 million and you're going to retire on a beach someplace. Get into it because you love doing it. I love the sport of curling. I also loved coaching. I used to sit up and watch Hockey Night in Canada with my dad. There's a little guy on the couch, and I was fascinated watching the Scotty Bowmans and watching NFL football, and watching some of those personalities and the Tom Landrys and Mike Keenans, and the coaches always really made an impression on me, and I allowed that influencing to kind of help steer me as to what I wanted to do. Just like an athlete watches, Usain Bolt run 100 meters in zero flat, and they want to become a runner. So do it because you love it. Don't do it because of what you think is going to be at the end. But then once you get into it, treat it like a job, treat it like a profession, whether or not you're working with a 6-year-old, whether you're working with 16-year-olds or working with 26-year-olds. Yeah, because I think they will really appreciate it. And for me, that's what really matters is the appreciation back from the athletes. It's not always the organizational appreciation that keeps a coach going. It's those little moments in time where you see an athlete actually hit something that they've been trying to do for ages and ages and ages, and they do it, and they just share that moment with you with a look, with a touch on the shoulder, whatever it is. Those are the moments that are really defining for me as a coach, and those are what keep me motivated to keep coaching.